Gets his first grand jury, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want that certificate.
They actually give you
Yeah,
one.
they do. They should.
Yeah.
You should give them all, and you should do your course.
I never did that, so. Okay.
Gentlemen, ready? Call this meeting of the Kent County Commissioners to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Please remain standing as we observe a moment of silence for the passengers who lost their lives in the train accident in the state of Washington. Thank you. Well, correspondence, Grand Jury of Kent County, Maryland will convene and be sworn by the Honorable Harris P. Murphy on Monday, January 8th, 2018. Proceedings will begin at 9 a.m. and all are welcome to attend. The Community Fire Company of Millington will be holding their 36th annual Installation of Officers Banquet. Festivities get underway with a social gathering at 6 p.m. with dinner at 6:30. Those who would like to attend, please confirm the reservations from Paige Hickman at 410-928-5295, Jessica Bennett, and Wayne Starkey. The numbers may be gotten from the commissioner staff. Well, this is the greatest notice of the year. All county offices will be closed on Monday, December 25th of this year, in observance of Christmas, and Monday, January 1st, 2018, in observance of the new year. Okay. I've lost my mouse thing. Oh, there it is. Owings and Sons, Inc. has applied for a permit to appropriate and use waters of the state, which have been assigned a particular permit number. The applicant seeks to appropriate and use annual average of 120,500 gallons of groundwater per day and an average of 731,000 gallons per day during the month of maximum use for crop irrigation. The water will be withdrawn from 4 wells in the IKEA Aquifer, and the project is located at 7084 Broadneck Road, Chestertown, Kent County, Maryland. Anyone like to have any other information about that, please contact the County Commissioner's staff. We have a note from Washington College concerning traffic. Apparently, detail 2 of their students have been struck by vehicles with no major industries on Washington Avenue and from Campus Avenue to Washington Avenue. So they think something should be done, and we will communicate to them that Washington Avenue is a state road, and the state will have to do what they got to do with that.
Maybe we could send a copy of our letter to them and ask the state people to
They can look into it and put it in.
We're also going to mention it on the priority funding letter in the spring that we send to State Highway.
Right. Okay.
as a concern.
From Robert Edler, our inspector, that on December 4th of this year, company trading as Sunny's Mart has requested to add Ankur Patel as a member to the LLC. And Mr. Patel has met the requirements to be added to that particular license. We have 3 sets of minutes, regular liquor and closed session minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Probably moving second, the aforementioned minutes be approved as submitted. All those in favor say aye. Motion is carried unanimously. Report of a closed session held on December 5th of this year. In closed session, the commissioners consulted with counsel to obtain legal advice on a legal matter in accordance with the general provisions Article Section 3-305, subparagraph B, sub 7 of the Annotated Code of Maryland. The reason for closing was legal advice from counsel is confidential. The commissioners, Ms. Heller, Mr. Yeager, and Mr. Boone discussed a legal matter at length. Mr. Yeager asked if the commissioners were agreeable to move forward with the draft documents as presented, and Mr. Yeager received consensus from the board to move forward as presented. Wayne Morris. Please. Must be official. He has his Dash 8 case with him. Yes, sir.
Well, I guess the first thing on there is at Nicholson landfill, the gas flare system. I think U.S. Public Works probably a few months ago to look into it when MES gave us a proposal to install, operate, and maintain the gas system. And we did. We sent it out RFP, and we got back 3 bids on it. And the bid that we're recommending is from ATIP. We've checked out their references. They do work in Anne Arundel County and also do work in Montgomery County. They've gave them glowing references, and so we're recommending that low bid. They've also, in their proposal, give us an offer to hook up the temporary system we had out there, the 2 lines we had on the temporary system, testing out to make sure everything's working right, which it has. It's done great in the past for the last month. And they're going to connect those 2 systems for another $2,900. And they provide us digitized existing layout drawings, and a PDF file on AutoCAD, so we can have something on file. If we need to re-permits, we've got something there we can actually send rather than burying around. So they, for that additional money, they're $43,500 for the total bid, and again, we're recommending that.
Did they submit the 1 bid and it was incomplete?
No, this was an alternative. There was the 2 temporaries were out there, and MES gave us a proposal to do that. If they got the job, they were going to hook those up too to make them permanent, and that's what they've done. They said the 2 temporaries on down, they would make permanent systems.
This is an added value. Yeah. That's all.
So the other 2 bids would have had to do the same thing if they had been a low bid. All right. So moved.
Second.
Partly moving second to award contract for the flare system at Nicholson landfill to, how do you pronounce that place?
ATIP.
What is Aptim? Out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for $34,600, including option 1, which is install additional laterals for $2,900. All those in favor say aye.
And the
6,000.
digitized.
Digitize existing layout drawing from PDF file into AutoCAD.
for a final 43.5.
435.
And actually, that comes in under the budgeted price of what we had, so.
There's a vote on the floor.
We've already,
Oh, you didn't say anything.
second.
Okay. Properly moving second to award the bid. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The second thing on there is just an update on the Wharton project. I think you've got a letter in your packet there that I got back from MDE regarding the process and the permit, and give us an option here that I think we can meet and would probably save us the $1.5 million that is in the project right now. I sit down with Greg and went through the last 3 years of lab results. I've also talked to our engineer, and right now we're exceeding meeting these limits that they're proposing for us. So what they're offering us right now, and with your approval, I'll send a letter back, is to revoke the existing permit, give us a new permit, which would be for a 5-year period, and after 5 years, the limits on for the ammonia as the total N would be implemented. If we're able to meet those two, I think it's a good deal. I think saving $1.5 million, I think it's a great deal. So
That was the whole point of bringing them over here.
That's right.
That's really an example of a real team effort to save the taxpayers of Kent County $1.5 million, because for those in the audience, remember that was when they were going to make us retreat the water in the lagoon because some yeast had set in, and it sounded ridiculous to us after the water had already been treated once. To make us retreat that again, it was just, so we asked, so I think, we've done our job by asking to have Secretary Grumbles come over here. He was nice enough to come over here. He paid attention, and he went back, and then Wayne had a conference call with him and worked out the details and stayed on it, and that project no longer has to be done. So that was a very worthwhile discussion we had with Secretary Grumbles. It's nice when people come over here and listen to you, and that was really more than I expected we'd get out of it. I thought really they would give us some money to help pay for it or something like that, but to just be able to nix that project, and that was, I think that was quite an accomplishment on everybody's part. So
When the documents are signed, either draft a letter to Secretary Grumbles and thank him very much for it.
Absolutely.
On the sign.
well,
Hey, when it's signed.
documents to be signed, it'd be a letter, sending a letter back to them accepting this, and then
Good.
they would issue us a new permit based on that.
When that's done, that's fine. That's fine. Then we'll send a letter to the Secretary.
But in their defense a little bit, if we'd have moved forward with the project, I could probably secure some additional grant funding for the project. But I'd much rather go this route than
So would we.
so,
That's right.
well, it's common sense has to play into things.
Common sense is not common.
I've noticed that.
Evidently, it wasn't much around because we were told we were getting ready to spend $1.5 million, so somebody hadn't used common sense hadn't been
Applied.
applied, absolutely. But that's a good success. That's a nice success story.
And
And you have new parameters that as long as you can meet these discharge limitations, you can discharge into the creek. Is that?
yeah, year round.
Yeah.
So that's what they've allowed us. We were doing it before, and then we had to cut it back when we started spray irrigation. So what it does now to us, it allows us to continue discharging with the treated effluent coming from the plant, which is certainly meeting the limits that we have imposed right now. But we'll also have the option of going to the ponds that have storage to spray irrigate in the spring and in the summer for Mr. Dill. So it's a win-win situation the way I see it. So.
Very good.
Very great.
A couple things that aren't on the agenda, but I just want to bring them up. One is Marty had come to me. He was going to ask for some contingent money to pay for this tub grinding that we do every year. Remember, MES comes over and tub grinds for us. they give us a credit back from MERP of $32,000, but we, have to pay the balance of that. Well, this year it was almost like $24,000 over what our budget was, but we were able, from the money we saved from the landfill system, we were able to cover that, so we won't need any contingency money. But in looking at this, we go back to common sense here now. I'd like to look into maybe, we're spending almost $200,000 a year for this brush grinding for MES. Queen Anne's County is also spending a considerable amount each year. I've looked into possibly purchasing a tub grinder, which is about $600,000. But if we could work a deal with Queen Anne, and I'm just throwing this out there now, to go in halves or go in a portion anyhow, whatever, I think in the long run we could end up saving money. Because we're not making any money off that brush. We're not charging anything for that brush coming in, which may be an issue coming up the road. We may have to start, because it's costing a considerable amount.
Find out the longevity of one of those grinders.
I've already done that.
How long do they last?
I've already got the maintenance of it and everything.
How long do they last?
They last about 10, 15 years.
10 to 15 years. Maintenance is what?
It depends. The guy said about every 2 to 3 years you might have to change the teeth in the screen, anywhere from $600 to $1,400, depending on the size screen. Depending, there's some variables there, but
And one of our operators could operate it?
Yeah.
And same thing
for Queen Anne.
as,
I mean, I think it's something worthwhile thinking about. Certainly, that's a lot of money when you start
$200,000 a
getting
year.
revenue back off of it. I mean, if we're going to look at that, then we need to, instead of paying somebody.
$1,000 a year in 10 years,
Yeah, right, I mean, 3 years pays for it, if we bought it by ourselves.
Yeah.
If we split it with them,
If we split it, a couple of years we don't pay for it.
It's on a trailer?
Well, they drive it, right?
Yeah.
drive it.
Yeah, but you don't drive it, I mean, you trailer it
Yeah,
from
you
one
trailer
place
it.
to the other, but it is, once it gets on the site, it's, the one I've seen, it almost run it like one of them electric toys, I mean, with the joystick in your hand, and it's on tracks, and it moves all by itself.
So are you asking permission to contact Queen Anne's County?
Throwing that out there, what I'm asking, I've already made contact with Queen Anne's County just to throw it out there for them to see what they thought. They think it might not be a bad idea. They thought about it in the past, but,
Her budget too, so it's probably a good time to do it.
well, it is, but let's not go too far right now. Let me,
I'm saying it's a good time to have these conversations.
yes. So let me do some more investigation and come back with it, but I just thought I wanted to throw that out for your thought process. Because it's cost us a lot of money and something you can think about, I think, personally. So I'll continue looking into that. The other thing I want to go over with you or discuss with you is the agreement between the town of Galena and cost of that plant up there on a quarterly basis. Somebody got a sweet deal out of that, but we're paying $20,000 a quarter to the town of Galena for operation and maintenance of that plant. Now, granted, I mean, it's not their fault that we haven't connected. But in looking at that agreement, I've been thinking, the way the agreement's structured, we get a credit applied to ours as if the cost does not go to the amount we're paying. If you look at the situation, right now, I think it would probably be, by the time we actually start putting any flow to that plant, it would be like a $200,000 surplus in there, credit. What I'd like to propose is a revision or temporary adjustment to the agreement that would allow the county to pay, instead of the 30% of the operation costs, which we have none of operation costs, to pay 30% of their debt return, quarterly debt retirement that they've incurred as a result of that plant, which my understanding is probably somewhere around $13,000. So that would be like a $4,000 a quarter payment to the town, which would help them. And, we're not putting anything in the plant right now, not 1 ounce.
So instead of air money going to the maintenance of the plant, the operation of the plant, you think air money should go to the debt service?
That would help them more, I think, because we're not causing any operational costs to that plant, nothing, right now.
Had you talked to anybody up there about that?
No, I'm just throwing this out for your, if you tell me to move forth with it, I'll draft a letter and we can send it up there for their consideration. They'll all say, no, you got agreement here and that's it. But I'd like to at least propose that because, again, if you look at the way it's structured, we would get a credit for any money and we'd have a $200,000 credit sitting there, which I don't think they would want to have. And certainly it's not beneficial. Yeah, it's not beneficial to them. And this way, we would be helping them pay down the debt until such time as we start putting flow in there, and then it would revert back to the agreement that we originally signed, or you all were signed.
I don't have any problem with the conversation.
Talk to them, see what they say.
Okay.
Okay.
That's all. Good night.
Thank you.
Very good.
Katrina Tucker, community planner, planning, housing, zoning, and et cetera.
At its meeting on December 7th, 2017, the Planning Commission reviewed 3 applications from landowners who are seeking to establish a Kent County agricultural land preservation district on their farms. All 3 farms are outside the 10-year water and sewer planning service area and are located within the priority preservation area. The Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board reviewed these applications at their meeting on November 13th and unanimously submitted favorable recommendations to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission found the applications are consistent with the comprehensive plan and meet the criteria for the creation of a county agricultural land preservation district, and thus forwards its favorable recommendations for approval of these 3 districts. The Code of Public Laws of Kent County in Chapter 171 sets forth the provisions for the agricultural land preservation and the procedures for the establishments of districts. This requires that the Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board and the Planning Commission advise the county commissioners as to whether or not the establishment of the district meets the criteria of the Agricultural Article Title II, Subtitle 5 of the Annotated Code of Maryland and Maryland regulations, and is compatible with existing county plans and overall county policy. We request that the commissioners review the December 8th letter from the Planning Commission, which is attached, and proceed with scheduling and advertising public hearings on the 3 applications that are seeking to establish agricultural preservation districts. The 3 farms meet or exceed the criteria for creating an ag preservation district, comply with the goal of the comprehensive plan to preserve large blocks of contiguous prime agricultural land, and are located within our priority preservation area.
I have a motion to schedule advertising for public hearings.
Second.
Properly moved second to schedule and advertise for a public hearing for the aforementioned agricultural preservation districts. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
You ready for the next item? Okay. This is to reappoint a member of the Historic Preservation Commission. The recommended individual has served a 3-year term on the Kent County Historic Preservation Commission and is seeking reappointment for another 3-year term. The membership qualifications, terms of appointment, and the filling of vacancies for the Historic Preservation Commission are established in Chapter 187 of the Kent County Code. The Historic Preservation Commission consists of 7 members appointed by the county commissioners. Commission members shall be appointed for 3 years and may be reappointed. Our staff recommends the reappointment of the recommended individual to the Historic Preservation Commission for a full 3-year term.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved second to reappoint the named individual to the Historic Preservation Commission. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Pat Merritt, our Chief Financial Officer.
couple of things tonight. I think the first thing you have is the financial statements. Okay, so the first page shows the overall P&L. And I guess on the bottom line, we're about $951,000 favorable after 4 months. These statements are through October 31st. The revenues are favorable by $315,000, and the expenditures by $635,000. And if we look at page 2, we can see what contributed to that. On the revenue side, the income taxes have come in $173,000 more than we thought at budget time. Property taxes are up a little over $55,000. Service charges are up just about $25,000, and sale of equipment and interest income makes up the balance of it. So those are the items that are contributing to the favorable revenue variance. On the next page, on the expenditure side, our salaries and benefits are about $174,000 favorable. Most of it is in full-time vacancies and turnover, about $117,000 of it. We also have some favorable variances in election and seasonal workers. The largest favorable variance is in our operating expenditures, about $316,000. And you can see the departments that are running favorable. Some of those are going to even out as we move through the year. But good sign so far. Our contingency is $133,000 favorable. Very little has been spent out of there this year. So, in fact, through October, nothing had been spent. So, and $12,000 in other things. Any questions? General fund?
Thank you.
Water and wastewater services. I guess in the bottom line, the transfer from the general fund, it was about $4,500 more than budget. The subsidy is at 19.5% compared to the budget of 19%. And if you look at that, you can see that it's almost all on the revenue side. Our revenues are about $4,500 less than budget. And if we look at the second page there, you can see the breakdown of the revenues. And it really just looks like the equipment sales and the allocation fees are less than anticipated, or I'm sorry, are higher, and everything else, more user fees, the sewer penalties, everything's just a little bit less than budget. So it's early in the year. Hopefully we'll see that turn around. On the operating side, items that have slight favorable and unfavorable variances you can see there, but it virtually comes right back to budget. Okay, the next page shows the water, wastewater capital projects. We have a $3,680,000 budget this year. So far, we've only spent about $557,000, so we have a lot more to spend this year. So just starting. And on the government capital project side, this is the next one. We're budgeted to spend a little over $4 million in projects. We spent just about $1.4 million so far. You can see the projects there listed that we've spent dollars on. Question?
Didn't we have it in budget this year? I didn't see it just spinning through there to have the bathrooms and.
No, I think that's FY19. It was not this year.
No, we got a grant approved.
No, POS. It will be POS. It's FY19 or FY20, but
Five-year
it's not.
plan, but
It's
yeah.
not this year.
Okay. So that's it for the financial statements. And then, moving facts next. Okay, so we have our November income tax distribution, which is when they reset the percentages for the coming year. So if you look at the first schedule, you can see that as of November, our total income tax is down $102,000 from last year, a 0.9% decrease, compared to the statewide, which was 0.9% increase. So through November, we're doing slightly less than the state. And if you look at the next slide, it has the number of returns processed. So this shows that as of November, we have 179 less returns processed. our returns are down 2%, and statewide average, they're up 1.1%. So again, we're faring slightly less than the state as a whole. The next slide talks about the comparison of the November distributions to the distributions at the end of January. And if you remember last year, really at November, all the money is supposed to be in for the tax year, but we have a significant portion of our population that pays, and we get monies in the January collection. So if you look at this, and that red really didn't come out too well, but on the top section of that slide for the income tax filed as of October 31st, you can see that we're down 1% from last year. We were up 8% at the end of tax year 2015, and the year before that we were down 7%. And those are the results as of November, when all the collections should be made. But if you look at the next section down in that sheet, you can see that these represent the collections after the December 31st payment, which is in January. And you can see the difference last year. We went from being up 8% at the end of the November distribution to down 4% when everything was tallied at the end of January. So we do have volatility with those January distributions. So I really do think that, until the January numbers are in, it's hard for us to tell because those numbers move around so much. But unfortunately, the state is going to reset the distribution percentages based on the November numbers. So because our results are that we had a 1% decrease, all of our distributions going forward are probably going to be slightly lower than last year. So once we get the January distributions, we'll know whether we really were ahead or behind. So it's really tough to tell at this point in time. So I'll be back at the end of January.
We hope to see you before then.
Yeah, well, I'll be back with the income tax. Okay. And then I have one last item, and this is a contingency request. Every 2 to 3 years, we're required to have an actuarial evaluation of our post-employment benefits plan. It's a $12,000 valuation.
This comes about annually.
This was an oversight in the budget process. It comes about every 2 to 3 years, depending on the number of employees. So it's not an every year expense. And depending, we're kind of right on the cusp of the cutoff with the number of employees. So sometimes it's 2 years and sometimes it's 3 years. And like I said, it was an oversight at budget time not to put these dollars in. It's not optional. There's really, no choices here, unfortunately.
This is for your office budget?
We put it through our office budget, yes.
Make a motion to approve. We don't have any choice in the matter.
No.
Already moving second to approve $12,000 out of contingency funds for the OPEB actuarial valuation.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they just put in another GASB standard that increased the requirements. Sorry.
All in favor say aye.
We all changed our mind.
Motion carried unanimously. Now you may continue.
Okay, so they put in another standard, and unfortunately, the cost is going up. But they're really, like I said, it's a requirement, and there really is no way around it. So anyway.
Who does those for us?
Bolton Partners. They've been doing them since the inception of the plan. We could look for another organization, but because they've got all the background, it's cheapest to go with them.
I wasn't insinuating that. I was just curious whether, like the same people that do our audits or something would do that kind of work.
No, it's an actuarial firm.
Okay.
It's a full employment program for actuaries.
It really seems to be growing that way. It does.
The ones who lobby in Congress for the GASBs.
Yeah, maybe they sit on the GASB, on the GASB board, I don't know.
And I got a question before. Are you done? Really, from my colleagues, the Upper Shore Regional Council, has a new girl who started, I think it was the 5th of December, and to be perfectly honest with you, that office was left in shambles. it was not taken well care of during that transition period. There's a lot of bills that aren't paid. There's problems with computers over there, and they're working through all this stuff. But in the past, haven't we, there's some outstanding bills that she is faced with. One is for rent. I think there's some money that's owed for rent and stuff. Is that something that we could track, keep the creditors happy, and then they could reimburse us? I think it's just a matter of as soon as they get the computers and stuff up and running, then they can find out just what
Sure.
that girl who's taking on that job is taking on quite a.
She was up, I actually met her, she was up in the offices and we chatted about, because we do have some interrelated financial transactions. So we did offer any assistance, and I'm happy to,
It's something we could easily track and then make sure that they reimburse us when things get straightened over there, because in all honesty, she's took on more than she had, and someone should have had to have taken on.
Sure, is there a list somewhere of what needs to be?
When she gets it all
She's
straight.
working through it. She's working through the list, going through emails. And part of it also is the signatures on the bank account, and she's just waiting for executive board meetings to get the signature.
From the time.
Blessing of the executive board to change the signatures through the bank, et cetera.
Sure, if they need to make payments in the interim, we can certainly facilitate that.
From the time Doris left till she took over, it was a fiasco.
I think I'm the only one still signature on
You're
the.
the only one still standing.
Still standing.
Okay. Well, I have her email contact, and I'll reach out to her and see what we can do to make that happen.
She's anxious to get this thing up and running and get it back on its feet, but she needs some help in the transition.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernadette Bowman, Director of Tourism Development.
They're not gonna let you live it down, Bernadette.
Now, good evening.
Good evening.
So I have pulled everything together, and I picked 3 things I want to let you guys know about. Okay. Well, the first one, I guess, is order of business, which is to take care of the reappointment of 2 of my board members and the appointment of a new board member to come on to replace an existing.
So moved.
Already moving a second to reappoint the named individuals and appoint also a named individual to the Tourism Board. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you. So the first thing that I wanted to let you know about is every year the State Office of Tourism does a survey, a report of economic impact for tourism. And I'm happy to tell you that we're up again this year, and our tourism expenditure number now is $60 million. So visitors are spending $60 million in Kent County per year. That is calendar year 2016, which is the latest number. So we're real happy about that. Also wanted to talk to you about just our partnerships and just go over that again, because that is really where we strengthen our marketing in the county, because if we can get our partners to do more, that strengthens the message going out, because it's not only what we're doing or helping to facilitate, but it's what they're doing as well. So this was just amazing. Our co-op ads, which you guys all know about, which is where we negotiate with a publication or medium and bring that rate down for our partners. And those partners spent $43,400 in fiscal 17. So that's not money that's coming to our department. That's not money coming to the county. That's money that is being spent on advertising from our partners, but through our co-op ads. So we're actually partnering together. So that, on top of what we spend, is what we can at least keep track of as far as spending marketing money going out for Kent County. So they had 97 ads in all of those co-op ads that we do. That's a lot of extra advertising going out there. And we're getting feedback from some of our partners that with these co-ops, it seems to help when they're budgeting, because they're budgeting advertising in, and they've got that line item in there. And that's super important, is for them to have that same line item of advertising for Kent County.
Question, you said about $60 million revenue for the county. Does the state provide a breakdown on those areas where most of the money is spent? In lodging or food or whatever?
There are tax codes that break it down by 8 different tax codes. So the answer is yes. We do know. We also know from our own numbers for lodging, because that's one of the largest, and that is up this year, or FY17, $6.1 million spent on lodging, just alone. So that's really key. Of course, retail, of course, restaurants. So those are our 3 major.
Okay.
The typical, the normal, what you spend money on when you guys go away.
We don't.
I know you don't. All right, and then the last thing that I wanted to show you, I may pull up our website. Spend much focus on the website, because everything that we do, all of the marketing that we do, we want people to come back to the website, because you can't put all of that information into a small ad or into a native content piece. So you kind of have to trigger that attention and catch that person and then bring them back to KentCounty.com. And this includes our social media too. Very important. Yes, we want to engage our partners and those who are following us with hashtag KentCountyMD, but everything we do triggers them back to our website. So if you look up here to the left-hand side under Visitor, and then you see all of those drop-downs, if there is a visitor question that can't be answered in here, please let us know as you're putting your eyes to this, because it's super important that a visitor finds the answer to whatever question they have about coming to visit, and quickly and easily. So if I click on visitors, that takes me to the visitor page. And do you remember us talking about the native content pieces that we're starting to populate? Well, I'm just going to flip through here really quickly, but I'd love for you guys to, when you have a chance, go on here, take a look, and read some of these stories. We have Experience Arts and Entertainment at Kent County's Historic Theaters. That's our latest one. Hunting in Kent County. History of the Beaches. Sweet Delight Ice Cream in Kent County. Biking the Byway in Kent County. 10 Reasons to Get Married in Kent County. A History Buff's Guide to Exploring Kent County. Featured Kent County, Maryland Annual Festivals and Events in 2018. Where to Enjoy Wine and Spirits. 15 Things You Didn't Know About Kent County. That one has generated more interest than any of the others so far. Kent County for Nature Lovers. 36-Hour Guide to Kent County. Kent County for Water Lovers. Kent County for Foodies. Kent County for Art Lovers. So the list will continue to go on. We're trying to do at least one a month, and we're pretty much on track with that. So when you read these stories, you're going to find that we are naming our partners in here, which is something that we hadn't really done in the past, because it's like, how do you be fair naming your partners? But you'll get more of a response if you name the partners, because then you're giving people more detail. You're giving them something to sink their teeth into that may trigger them to make to act and go to the website and decide to come to Kent County. So the one thing that we want to make sure everybody knows is that, yes, even though we may mention a few of our partners in each of these Native content pieces, the idea is we'll continue to write them. So we'll continue to keep adding our partners in as we go. So everyone at some point will be mentioned, whether it's in a Native content piece, social media, in our co-ops. So the idea is to give people more meat about what there is to see and do in Kent County. So please, take a look at some of these and read, and you'll see, let's just do 10 Reasons to Get Married. You see this where it says read more? Those are our landing pages where you'll get the whole story and more photos. And we are also doing that, say, for lodging.
That's very nicely done.
Thank you.
kind of neat.
Well, that's teamwork, we're working also with Jason in IT, and we're actually, I didn't have this on my list, but I want to tell you, and that is we're working on new pages for the website, which is weddings, because we know that's huge. We're also doing another Native piece for February for weddings. January, we're doing a health and wellness. That's huge right now. So both of those, weddings and health and wellness, we're going to create our own piece on the website for both of those. So they will be their own topic. So when you go to lodging, you'll see this more information, and then that goes to a landing page. So all of our listings have landing pages so that our partners can put more information on there to help, again, trigger that visitor to act. And of course, all of these partners also link back to their websites. So that's where we are.
Gives you a chance to tell the story of Kent County more when people
That's-
click on, they're interested in something, and you can. Yeah,
Exactly.
Chicago.
What's that?
Chicago.
Right. We still need them too. It's the whole package. It's everything. We are doing more with journalists. Remember MATPRA? And we've had 3 journalists this year alone, just from September, because of the MATPRA participation that we did. So we'll continue to really stay active with that organization. That's where we are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
You too.
Okay, I think. Shelley, you're up. Oh, Jamie. I went past that one. I'm sorry.
James.
Amy?
Okay, as I believe you all know, we got an invitation to go over to Annapolis for a press release for Governor Hogan last week. Bronny, myself, Commissioner Fithian, myself, and Susan O'Neill from the Upper Shore Regional Council were able to attend. So I wanted to update you on that information. So the More Jobs for Marylanders Act legislation was passed last year during the legislative session. It went into effect January 1st, and it's been successful. So part of the announcement was, and I'll pass around, this is the 2017 Act that was passed for the details, explains them a little bit more, but I'll just highlight them really quickly. The Act was created for new and existing manufacturing businesses. The program provides tax incentives tied to job creation for a 10-year period. New manufacturing businesses locating in a Tier 1 county, creating at least 5 jobs, was entitled to a 10-year credit for income tax based on the number of jobs created, state property tax exemption, and sales and tax use refund for specific purposes, and a waiver of all State Department of Assessment and taxation fees. So we were originally not a Tier 1 county, so I didn't pay much attention to that until we got called over to Annapolis. Additionally, existing manufacturing businesses were able to qualify for a 10-year income tax credit if they created 10 new jobs in a Tier 2 county. So while I did focus on that part of it, the Tier 1 didn't really apply to us at the time. It also encourages additional investment in new equipment through accelerated and bonus depreciation, and there's a whole bunch of details about that. And strengthening Maryland's workforce, and you'll see how they're doing that by putting money into training programs and apprenticeship programs and encouraging STEM and CTE programs. So the 2018 proposed legislation that Governor Hogan talked about, which is what we're interested in, would include Kent County. So they their proposal is to include Garrett, Caroline, Kent, and Wycomico County as a Tier 1, which means then we would qualify, our businesses would qualify for those credits. So, which that is good news. In addition to that, the counties can choose up to 3 industry sectors in addition to manufacturing. So whatever your uniqueness is and you want to capitalize on, you could then provide those same credits back. So that's exciting. And then lastly, the available funding was $9 million. This is proposed, all proposed, yes. Was $9 million, and they're asking for an increase to $15 million. So, and then providing funding for internships in STEM-related fields is another for the new proposed legislation. So the focus is jobs, 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 and providing training to have an increase the number of qualified job applicants for these growing businesses in the community. So, any questions about that? I think, we will need to support it when legislation goes through, so I hope that we will. We will need to, if and when the legislation is passed, then we will have to decide what industry sectors we would want to apply those benefits to. Started giving it some thought, started looking at some additional data to make sure that we are choosing the right ones as well, and we'll work with the state on that as well. And then just really quickly, I just wanted to share that I did get an additional scholarship. You guys have in the past for the Maryland Economic Development Association Lofton Scholarship. I just applied again, and I got another one for this year. So, thank you. Yep. That's all I have, unless you have questions for me.
Wind up with a PhD in economic development.
I'll be able to sit for my exam sometime this year. So.
What's the name of the exam?
It's the Certified Economic Developer Certification. Yes.
Thanks, James.
International.
Thank you.
It is.
Okay, thank you. Now,
Okay, I only have a couple things for you this evening. The first is a request for approval to procure the Motorola software. It's a legacy system. This is for the public safety radio system on the Maryland First 700 megahertz radio system. It's called in the amount of $7,993, and this was in the budget.
So moved.
Second.
already moving second to approve payment of Motorola and annual software agreement in the amount of $27,993. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
Second is a request for release of a letter of credit. This is in the amount of $12,100 from the McGee Group for a sediment and erosion control fee, and it has been inspected and the project meets all the requirements.
So moved.
Second.
Already moving second to release the McKee Group letter of credit to M&T Bank. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion is carried unanimously.
Enclosed in your packet is a proposed 2018 meetings calendar. This is as a result of the legislation that was passed here requiring that there be a minimum of 2 meetings, commissioner meetings per month, but that in some of the not as heavy seasons, there not be as many meetings as once per week. So you can look at the schedule, give input. You'll see in the budget season, obviously it's every week. There's no way around it. And we've requested input from all the department heads to make sure that all of their requirements and deadlines will be met by the schedule.
And even though we have a schedule, if we find ourselves busy, we can always readjust the schedule.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sure.
So moved.
Yep. Second.
Doesn't require a motion.
Okay.
And the last 2 things are members on boards and commissions. The first is Commission on Aging. There is a vacancy to fill an unexpired term. It's for 2 years, and they are generally 3-year terms.
So moved.
Second.
Party move and second to approve the appointment of a recommended individual to the Commission on Aging. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously.
The second recommendation for a board member comes from the state, so you recommend to the state the member. This is for the Property Tax Assessment Appeal Board, and there is a recommendation for a board member as a candidate. As an alternate board member.
Second.
Party move and second to forward to the governor for an appointment to the Property Tax Assessment Appeal Board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously.
That's all I have for you.
Yeah, I just want to bring up one thing. I've been getting some calls lately about this Bay Bridge study that the state has put together, and there's some people that have been watching some of this and unfold. I actually tried to get on this one meeting they were going to have. They advertised that you could go on the internet. And that thing all of a sudden went dark and nobody could see anything. There are some people that really, truly believe that we are in the crosshairs of this. I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but last month that last meeting, we sent some letters out asking for air committee, because we do have a Bay Bridge monitoring committee. That was put together to really pay attention to what's going on at these state meetings and maybe report back to us. I don't think they've ever met. I think we sent a letter out not too long ago asking them to put together a meeting and get acquainted with one another and pick a chairman if you have, whatever you got to do.
Correct.
I don't know that anybody's acted on that. I'm wondering if we ought to set up a meeting for them, making them aware of this meeting, getting it together. I would hate for us to be blindsided by something that's going on out there. Some of the people that have called me made some pretty convincing arguments as to why we should really be paying attention to this thing. So,
Are you suggesting we bring them in here to meet us? Because I don't know.
Letter saying, look, we've taken in, the commissioners have set you up a meeting date.
Other than Mike,
Or bring them in here, however you want to
because
do
other
it.
than Mike Wall, that's the only one I know that's on the committee. Other than we appointed one 2 weeks ago.
There's about 7 or 8 people
So
on that committee.
it'd be nice to
altogether.
have a chat with them.
Well, then we can ask them to come in here.
Sure.
That would be better yet, I think. But
And that was a topic of discussion among several people at the NACO conference.
yeah,
Other than the meeting with the secretary that didn't work out, but other counties are encouraging, if the state has to do it, don't do it to them.
and then we were just notified. I mean, you, Shelley, you give us. The first time I saw it was tonight. where a senator from Anne Arundel County has put in a bill, I have it right here, which he's trying to put in legislation to take a vote away from all 9 Eastern Shore counties as to the placement of this bridge, which would leave it up to the Western Shore counties to decide where this bridge is put. The senator is from Anne Arundel County, and obviously they don't want they don't want it there. They don't want the 3rd bridge coming across from Anne Arundel to Queen Anne, so they want to be able, I guess it's the craziest thing I think I've ever seen for somebody to think that 9 counties is going to sit by and let somebody take their voting power away from them.
That traffic goes through.
That's right.
So, I mean, this makes you think that there is some things you need to we start paying attention to, because other people are starting to pay attention and they're jockeying. This is just an attempt to jockey this whole scenario to take the entire Eastern Shore out of where this bridge comes across. So I think it's a good idea that we bring these people in here and our committee and tell them how important this is. And I don't look at our committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, it's a monitoring committee. It reminds me of that commercial you see on television where that bank's being robbed and the security guy standing there saying, well, no, I'm not a police officer. I'm just a monitor. You know, I'm supposed to tell you when you're being robbed, and you're being robbed. So, but this kind of really got my attention, and like I said, I've had some calls from some people that think that it's more serious maybe than some of us thought in the beginning.
And that MDTA has reached out to Amy Murdoch to be the county point of contact for official notifications and input. So she has at least reached out to the various departments that would be appropriately involved in this. And even though she would be the single point of contact for the county for incoming and even coordinating the outgoing, there would be lots of people.
I tell you really have to take a look at the makeup of our 36th legislative district. I mean, that could very easily, even on face value, we've got a small group, three delegates and a senator, but they're going to be split. You know, that's even going to split them up, because you've got a delegate of Queen Anne's County who I'm not saying he will, but he may very well be jockeying to keep it out of Queen Anne's County. We got one person in I think we need to pay attention.
And our senator lives in Queen Anne's County also.
Three of the sub-areas include parts of Kent County.
Well, there's no question that I don't know about the money you would have to put in roads to get it from wherever it lands in Kent County out to a dual-lane highway. I mean, it's probably 30 miles. You have to reroute the traffic to get them to find their way to a dual-lane highway, but it is probably, because of the depth of the water and stuff, it's probably one of the showless places. I mean, the cheapest places to build one. You look at if it's narrow, it's shallow water. It makes sense that people will be looking at that. I don't know, but we need to pay attention. I think we ought to get started on it.
For the record, the website is www.baycrossingstudy.com, and that's where the state is pushing out information. So if everybody's interested.
Anything? Well, I like to say one thing before we go into closed session is that the county government and we as commissioners, I speak for my colleagues, that we do appreciate all of our county employees. They are some of the most outstanding people that anyone could have in local government. And coupled with that, we have some of the most outstanding citizens in the state of Maryland. This is in spite of disagreement over buses and bus routes. But still, this is really a close-knit community. Okay. Anything, news media, any questions? Okay.
Okay, motion to go into closed session, discuss consideration of reclassification of position, individual specific qualifications. Merry Christmas to you too, Bob.
Merry Christmas.
Woo, woo, woo. John, you almost look like Santa Claus.
He's getting there.
John.